Friday the 13th, the iconic franchise, gave rise to one of the most iconic horror characters of all time. I'm of course referring to Roy, the paramedic. Everybody's favorite Friday the 13th film, A New Beginning, turned 40 this year, the godforsaken year of 2025. A New Beginning is the fifth entry in the series and the black sheep of the family. It is often cited as one of, if not the worst in the franchise, and there are a few reasons for this, some of which are more fair than others. Personally, I like this one. I think with a little doctoring, it could have been a much more reputable entry in the series. So, oh, and spoiler warning for these trashy movies that came out 40 years ago. In 1984, Friday the 13th, the final chapter, the fourth and final film in the franchise, is released. Paramount was very embarrassed by making these trashy, slashy splatter flicks, but they were super cheap to make and absolute cash cows. So, Paramount swallowed their pride and churned out unlikely sequel after unlikely sequel. But they decided it was time to wrap things up and put Jason to bed. And so, the final chapter ends with young Tommy Jarvis dicing Jason's head to a pulp with a machete, definitively killing the thus far indestructible killer. Jason is dead. The final chapter. The fifth film, A New Beginning, follows Tommy Jarvis, now a troubled teenager, as he is sent to a halfway house for troubled teenagers. Tommy is plagued by nightmares of Jason returning from the grave, but is continually assured that Jason is dead and buried. But then, someone who certainly looks like Jason begins bumping off characters left and right. This brilliant bit of cinema.
You big dildo. Eat your fucking slop.
Is loaded with gratuitous nudity, raunchy humor, an abundance of drug use, and one of the highest body counts in the entire series. Oh, and plenty of belligerent swearing.
I gotta take a crap. Crap my ass!
Well, this just sounds bitchin'. What's with all the hate? Like every good doctor, I'm going to start with a diagnosis. What seems to be the problem, Part 5? Please turn and cough. Problem number 1. The killer. So, you're making another Friday the 13th film, but you killed off Jason, the mascot of the franchise, in the previous film. Well, fuck. What do you do now? Oh, I know. What if the killer isn't Jason, but is actually just some fucking guy? People definitely won't hate that. The most common gripe that fans have with this film is that Jason is not the killer, and we find this out via a completely fumbled killer reveal in the end of the movie. I think Jason not being the killer is actually a really good idea. Allow me to elaborate. You're committed to maintaining Jason being dead. You're already 4 movies deep, and you want to try something different. Well, I think the answer is simple. You make it a whodunit. As is, the movie is technically a whodunit. All of the elements are basically there, but it's weak as hell. You never really buy into there being any sense of a real mystery. So, dig this. Tommy, disturbed and unstable, is brought to the halfway house, mixed in with other troubled teens. And then, bodies begin to pile up, and Tommy insists Jason is back. But Tommy, it can't be Jason. You killed him, remember? Jason's dead. Eventually, Tommy, becoming more and more inconsolable, convinces the sheriff or whoever to exhume the body of Jason Voorhees. The characters go to Crystal Lake Cemetery. They find Jason's tombstone. They dig up his grave. They pull out his coffin, and Tommy watches, suspense building, his distress mounting as they pry open the coffin lid. And there's Jason's body. Oh my god, the killer really isn't Jason. Who could it be? Could it be the foul neighbors who hate the troubled kids and want to get rid of them once and for all? Could it be the strange, creepy man leering from the woods? Maybe one of the other teenagers finally snapped. Or maybe Tommy really is crazy, and he's the killer.
Relax, Chief. What's wrong? No sense of humor? Can't you take a joke?
And you got yourself a whodunit, baby. You build up your red herrings and their potential motives, and Tommy, meanwhile, is trying to solve the mystery and catch the copycat killer. Only his delusions get stronger and stronger, and more characters begin accusing him of being the killer, so much so that he starts to doubt himself. This all builds until you have your final showdown, where Tommy defeats the copycat killer and reveals their identity. And you make it a better surprise than, oh, it's that guy. He's also in the dark. He's wearing this cowl thing to look like Jason. He's getting rained on, and it's been what feels like 6 hours since you've seen this guy. All of this renders him pretty much unrecognizable. So they reveal his face, and you're like, who's that? And the characters are like, oh my god, it's Roy. And you're like, who the fuck is Roy? Also, the fact that Jason turns out to be this schlubby old man makes it really funny that he's like bursting through doors like they're made of paper. I think a Friday the 13th film where the killer isn't Jason is potentially a good idea. And my proof is the first Friday the 13th. I think if they had put more effort into making it a well-rounded whodunit, it would have worked and been interesting. Also, personally, I actually really like the look of Jason in this one. I really like the blue triangle hockey mask. I think it looks nice. Blue is also my favorite color, so perhaps I am biased. Problem number 2, the goddamn MPAA. This franchise was consistently getting bedeviled by the Motion Picture Association of Get Me Outta Here to cut down on the gore and nudity lest they receive an X rating. Some of the movies got it worse than others, Looking at You, Part 7, but this one did get it pretty bad. This resulted in, despite having one of the highest body counts in the franchise, most of the kills being off-screen or cut short. As for the MPAA doing more slashing than the killer and gutting the movie of its gore, my solution is simple. They should have just released the film unrated. Or, if they were feeling ballsy, with an X rating. Now, there's no way Paramount would have done either of those things, especially in 1985. From a business standpoint, you wanted an R rating. This was for wider distribution, as most theaters at the time would not play unrated movies. This was due to liability, marketing, reputation, etc. Nor would they play X-rated movies for all the same reasons. Plus, the X rating, while it began as a legitimate rating for movies that were just too explicit for people under 18, by 1985, It was mostly associated with porn. An X rating also means adults only, so you're going to lose most of your teenage crowd. And teenagers are not a demographic you want to lose for your horny slasher movie. So it's better to just make the cuts and get an R rating. Right? Speaking of pornography, Danny Steinman directed this film. Steinman's filmography was mostly porn, which explains why A New Beginning is the way it is. So, Paramount has this series known for gory kills and gratuitous T&A. This series has been controversial since its inception, and after half a decade of this reputation, you hire a porno director to make the new one. So why even bother hitting the brakes? Personally, I think they should have gone with an X rating and capitalized on it. The new Friday the 13th is so extreme, so violent, so sexy, it's rated X. It makes for great publicity. Your advertising is limited, but you have great word of mouth. The franchise is already super popular. You put up posters, Friday the 13th, A New Beginning, bragging about the most terrifying film you'll ever experience, and right at the bottom, rated X. Now that's advertising. Again, there's no way they would have done this, and admittedly, they probably would have lost money if they did. I think they at least should have released the cut-down R-rated version in theaters, but then the uncut, more explicit version on VHS in video stores. I want to talk about the death of Violet, my favorite character in the film. This new wave goth diva has such a lame kill, and her original death scene was much more metal. They originally filmed a death scene wherein Violet gets chopped in the crotch with a machete, which is so gnarly and cool, but it was too much, so they toned it down. And now Jason just grabs her and stabs her in the stomach. And that's it. Boo. I think more elaborate gore effects would make the ridiculously high body count more exciting. There are a few good kills, but too many of them are just bloodless and off-screen, and this problem is exacerbated by the fact that Problem 3. There are too many characters. There are characters who are introduced only to be killed off in the same scene. This combined with the lame kills starts to feel pretty tedious. A small slew of these characters could have, and probably should have, been written out completely. We don't need cocaine guy. We don't need woods pervert guy. We don't need diner boobs lady. We don't need the Arctic monkeys. Focus on the teens and focus on your mystery plot. So, even if you did make all those changes, you took all my suggestions, the movie is just so dumb and filthy and sleazy.
Them damn enchiladas! Oh! Ooh, baby, ooh, baby, ooh, baby, ooh, baby.
These are typically cited as weaknesses, but I see them as strengths. What the movie lacks in gore or plot, it makes up for in lewd, crude, gross-out excess. The thing is, I think the movie's biggest problem is that it's a Friday the 13th film. I am convinced If this was just a standalone 80s slasher movie, it would be a cult classic and would be seen much more charitably today. It has its flaws, but it has its charms, and I think people are too hard on it.
Oh, God! It's all right.
Bunch of pussies.
Okay, Friday the 13th, A New Beginning. I gave you my prognosis. If you want a second opinion, I understand, but you should know that my opinion is worth at least 2 of anyone else's. In the meantime, though, you really should get some bed rest. Doctor's orders. I'm gonna go do some ketamine that I prescribed myself. See ya!
It uses the same basic old formula, the formula I call the dead teenager formula. You know, where there are a lot of living teenagers at the beginning of the movie, and by the end of the movie, all of the teenagers are dead. And this is as close as I hope you get to this movie.
There's an awful lot of body piercing in this film, and I don't know what that kick is there.
Would you shut the fuck up?